Hey, greetings everybody. I just wanted to make a quick video, not sure how quick it'll be actually, but a video on how to go about the discussion posts and how to improve your discussion posts. So let's go through the guidelines real quick. So you're going to respond to the prompt posted below. So it's this thing right here. We'll go through that in just a second. Respond to your assignment prompt by referring to the assigned content in 1 to 3 paragraphs. So this is real important to make sure that you go through the writing guidelines. This is going to remind you that relevant dates, relevant historical individuals, relevant geography, and anything else that's relevant, even though it's not specifically asking for that in the discussion post, is going to get you a higher grade if you include it in your response rather than not including it in the response, right? And then one thing that trips up students quite a bit, and it's kind of heartbreaking because students sometimes post some really good stuff for their post, but they do not respond to a student, or if they do, they respond really briefly and just are simply complimenting the student. Just focus on really providing a detailed analysis of anything that might be missing from the student's response, right? And you can respond to more than one. So if you notice that everybody's posting some pretty complete responses, then go through and really try to find a couple of items from several students where you can add to their post. So the discussion post. Now, what you want to be real clear on is you've got to respond to the entire prompt, right? So compare and contrast presidential reconstruction with that of congressional reconstruction. So that's the first thing you want to do here. Now in doing that, you want to, for something like this, you want to identify specific policies. So presidential reconstruction, you want to talk about the 10% plan and Johnson's reconstruction plan in detail. And for congressional reconstruction, you want to go into the legislation that was passed, right? The Civil Rights Act, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, the Freedmen Bureaus, right? And then associated dates with those, and then explain what those amendments in the Civil Rights Act were. And then also provide any relevant individuals, right? Like Thaddeus Stevens, right? So in your discussion, provide examples and successes of failures of 2 reconstruction phases, provide an example of an individual who contributed the most success to reconstruction, an example of an individual who contributed the failures of reconstruction. Finally, after reviewing MLK's speech, I Have a Dream, describe and explain the connections he made between 1963 and the events of Reconstruction. All right, so let's go through a few responses just to see what makes for a good response that's going to get you, in the upper 80% or 90%, and something that is going to get you something maybe below a 70%. So for a response like this is one that got a little bit below a 70%, this particular response here, or just around a 70%. So the presidential reconstruction, congressional reconstruction, they both had the same plan, which was to abolish slavery, the votes to take a loyalty oath, and to preserve the Union, right? The difference was that from presidential reconstruction was a little more lenient against the South versus the congressional reconstruction. President Lincoln wanted to get the black people to normal relations as soon as possible, but after his assassination in 1865, Johnson took over and he had multiple failures. So in comparing presidential reconstruction to congressional reconstruction, first you want to go through the policy. So this response is needing to explain what presidential reconstruction was and when it began. So as indicated in the chapter and in the lecture, presidential reconstruction begins in 1863 with the Emancipation Proclamation and the 10% plan, right? So that's something you want to include when you're talking about presidential reconstruction. And then to go into how Johnson approached presidential reconstruction with his specific policies. about that. And then congressional reconstruction, there's nothing here really talking about congressional reconstruction and its policies. So again, what needs to be in something like that is the Civil Rights Act of 1866, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, specific individuals. Definitely the Reconstruction Acts need to be referred to when it comes to congressional reconstruction. So this is where you want to approach to, right? There's nothing incorrect about this response. I'm just trying to point out how to get, how to increase one's grade going forward. So here we have a response that did earn quite a bit of credit for their post. The main difference between presidential reconstruction and congressional reconstruction were the attitudes towards the Confederate South and civil rights of black people. That's an excellent generalization right there, and then it goes on to back it up, right? It's concise, and it really gets to the heart of the differences and the attitudes between the two approaches of Reconstruction. So here we go with specifics. In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation was passed, which was supposed to free all slaves. This did not entirely work, however, right? President Andrew Johnson was against blacks' rights and led presidential Reconstruction in 1865, was assassinated. And then the Post goes on to further explain Johnson's approach to Reconstruction. The only thing missing a little bit here is it should have gone into Lincoln's plan of the 10% plan. But overall, this is gearing towards a more complete response to the first part of the prompt.